In the sprawling high-tech campus of the Interstellar University of Xenobiology, the atmosphere was always vibrant, filled with students from across the galaxy. The diverse crowd featured a variety of colors, sizes, and shapes, from the towering crystalline glacis of Cryonax to the diminutive buzzing Fenians of Zora. They all mingled and learned in an environment that celebrated the richness of life in the universe. One of the university's most renowned professors, Goran Zalar, a distinguished figure with Lenis skin and eyes that shifted in hue with his mood, stood at the front of the bustling lecture hall. Today, his eyes were a calm shade of green, signaling his excitement about the day's topic. He activated the holographic projector, and an image of Earth suspended in space filled the room. Today, we will explore one of the most intriguing and dangerous planets in the known universe. Earth, or as it is often called, Terra. Professor Goran began, his voice resonating with a gravity that instantly hushed the mingling crowd. This world is designated as a Level 12 Deathworld, a classification that denotes extreme survival challenges for most known life forms. A murmur of excitement and apprehension buzzed through the room. A Azorian student, characterized by his bright blue tentacles, raised a limb. "Professor, what criteria make a world a death world?" "An excellent question," Gan replied Goran. "A planet receives this classification based on several factors: environmental conditions, predatory species, disease prevalence, and natural disaster frequency, all of which are extreme on Earth." The room's screens flickered, showing scenes of Earth's violent storms, vast deserts, deep oceans teeming with predators, and dense forests. Each of these environments, while lethal, is also a cradle of biodiversity, pushing evolution to its limits, Goran explained. At the back of the room, Tim Marsden, a human, watched his classmates' reactions. His face remained impassive, but his eyes gleamed with a mix of pride and nostalgia as the images shifted to display humans interacting with various life forms on their home planet. Earth animals and landscapes appeared on the screens, causing some students to gasp at the apparent recklessness of humans. Earth's native sapients have adapted to these conditions over millennia, Goran continued, gesturing towards Tim. "Mr. Marsden here is a testament to the resilience and adaptability required to thrive on such a planet." Tim nodded slightly, acknowledging his role as an anomaly in this diverse academic setting. Surviving on Earth doesn't just come from physical strength or speed, it's about wit, will, and respect for the environment, he said. Goran smiled, pleased with Tim's input. "Indeed, and that is why tomorrow we will embark on a field trip to Earth. You will observe, learn, and experience what it means to interact with a death world environment firsthand. Prepare yourselves for a challenging and enlightening experience." As the class dismissed, students clustered around Tim, eager to learn more about his home world. Despite their advanced technologies and diverse backgrounds, Earth intrigued and daunted them. Tim felt a surge of responsibility and excitement. He was not just a student but a bridge between worlds, ready to guide his peers into the heart of his challenging home planet. The interstellar transport vessel descended through Earth's atmosphere, its hull glowing from the friction of re-entry. Inside, the cabin was filled with tense silence, broken only by the occasional hum of the ship's systems and the soft whir of personal life support suits being adjusted. Outside the windows, the swirling clouds parted to reveal the vast expanse of the North American wilderness below. Tim Marsden watched his classmates as they peered out, their expressions a mix of wonder and nervous anticipation. "Nothing like the simulators, right?" he joked, trying to ease the mood. A Galaxian girl named Zara, whose skin shimmered like the surface of a starlit pond, nodded, her large eyes wide. "It's beautiful and so vast," she whispered, almost to herself. The vessel landed smoothly in a clearing surrounded by towering pine trees. As the students disembarked, they were immediately enveloped by the fresh, earthy scent of the forest. The air was cool and crisp, a stark contrast to the recycled atmosphere of the ship. "Remember, stay close and follow the safety protocols we discussed," Professor Goran instructed as he led the group away from the landing site. His eyes, now a cautious shade of amber, scanned the surroundings alertly. As they trekked deeper into the woods, the reality of Earth's untamed nature began to unfold around them. Sudden sounds, the rustling of leaves, a distant howl, the snap of a twig caused several students to startle, their heads swiveling in the direction of each new noise. "Those are just the normal sounds of the forest," Tim explained, noticing their reactions. "Most creatures here are more scared of you than you are of them." The group encountered their first wildlife, a deer that stood statuesquely among the trees before bounding gracefully away. Cameras clicked and whirred as the students captured the moment, their earlier apprehension giving way to fascination. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, a sense of unease crept back among the group. Night on Earth was a different beast, and Tim could see the uncertainty in his classmates' eyes. "We'll set up camp here," Professor Gorin decided, pointing to a relatively clear area near a stream. "Tim, perhaps you could help gather firewood. The rest of you, start setting up the tents." Gathering around the crackling fire later, the students shared their initial impressions. "It's one thing to read about Earth's biodiversity, and quite another to experience it," mused a Thulian student named VX, his skin flickering with bioluminescent light. "Everything here feels so alive." "It is," Tim agreed, tossing another log onto the fire. "And at night, it comes alive in a different way. You'll see soon enough." As darkness enveloped the campsite, the true chorus of the night began. Owls hooted, insects chirped, and somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled, a sound that sent a shiver through the group. "Welcome to Earth," Tim said, a half-smile playing on his lips as he watched his classmates huddle closer to the fire, their eyes wide with a blend of fear and awe. The night is just beginning. The first night on Earth was an orchestral performance of natural sounds that none of the alien students had ever experienced. The chorus of nocturnal creatures played a symphony that was both enchanting and unnerving. As they sat around the fire, the shadows cast by the flames danced on their faces, reflecting the flicker of emotions crossing their minds. Tim, familiar with Earth's darker hours, took the first watch, letting the others try to get some sleep. He sat with his back against a tree, a small scanner in hand, monitoring nearby life activity. He knew the likelihood of a dangerous encounter was minimal, but vigilance was a habit hardwired into any Earth-born. A rustle in the underbrush caught his attention. Switching off the scanner, Tim stood quietly, his eyes scanning the darkness. A figure emerged, the gray silhouette of a wolf, its eyes catching the light from the fire and glowing briefly. Tim remained still. His training on Earth had taught him that sudden movements could provoke a charge. "Why isn't it attacking?" a whispered voice asked from behind him. VX had woken up and was watching the scene unfold with wide, luminescent eyes. "Wolves aren't usually aggressive, unless threatened or desperate," Tim whispered back. "This one is just curious. Watch." They observed in silence as the wolf sniffed the air, its ears twitching at every crackle from the fire. After a moment that felt like an eternity, the wolf gave a small huff and turned, disappearing back into the woods as silently as it had arrived. "That was incredible," VX breathed out, his voice a mix of relief and wonder. "It's all about respect," Tim said, sitting back down. "Mutual respect. You give them their space, and they'll give you yours." The rest of the night passed without incident. By morning, the students were buzzing with the night's experience, sharing stories of their newfound respect for Earth's wildlife and the mysterious beauty of its untamed wilderness. Their fear was replaced by a thrilling sense of having touched something wild and untamed. As they broke camp, Professor Gorin gathered them for a brief talk. "Today, we'll head deeper into the forest," he announced. "Keep your scanners ready and stay alert. Remember, every part of Earth, from the smallest insect to the largest predator, has adapted to survive. You must do the same." The group moved out, heading toward a denser part of the forest. The trees grew taller, and the shadows deepened as they walked. Tim pointed out different plants and their uses, ranging from medicinal to poisonous. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the forest. A tree, weakened by disease and further assaulted by recent storms, was falling. Quick as a flash, Tim shouted, "Move," and pushed a nearby student out of the way. The tree crashed down where she had been standing seconds before, sending a cloud of birds shrieking into the sky. Breathing heavily, the student, a Fenian named Keel, looked up at Tim with wide eyes. "Thank you," she said, her voice quivering. "That's Earth for you," Tim said, clapping her gently on the back. "Always expect the unexpected." The incident shook the group, but it also bonded them. They became more attentive to their surroundings, their senses heightened by the realization of the constant vigilance required on a death world. As evening approached, they reached a wide river, its waters rushing loudly. "We'll camp here for the night," Professor Gorin decided. "This is a good place to learn about aquatic ecosystems tomorrow." The students set up camp with practiced efficiency, their movements more confident this time. They gathered around the fire, sharing stories of their home worlds as the stars began to appear overhead. Despite the dangers, there was no place they would rather be at that moment than Earth, learning and living on a world so full of life and lessons. Today was a good day, Tim said as he looked around at his friends. Every day you learn something new is a good day on Earth. As the fire crackled and the river sang, the alien students felt a growing respect for the beautiful, deadly planet they were beginning to understand. The tranquility of the riverside camp was abruptly shattered early the next morning by a foreboding shift in the atmosphere. The air turned heavy, charged with an electric tension that made the hairs on Tim's neck stand on end. Dark clouds gathered swiftly overhead, blotting out the early morning sun and casting the landscape in a gloomy pall. "Storm's coming," Tim announced, looking up at the swirling clouds. He had seen many storms on Earth, and the signs were unmistakable. "We need to secure the camp and find shelter. This one looks severe." The students scrambled to action, hastening to reinforce their tents and secure any loose items. Professor Gorin directed them with calm urgency, aware of the potential danger but also seeing the educational value in experiencing Earth's raw power firsthand. As the first heavy drops of rain pelted down, the wind began to howl, whipping the trees into a frenzied dance. Lightning flashed across the sky, followed by the deep, ominous rumble of thunder. The forest seemed to come alive with the storm, its branches groaning and leaves swirling in the tempestuous wind. The students huddled together beneath a makeshift shelter, listening to the cacophony of nature around them. Tim's voice cut through the noise. "Stay calm and stick together. We'll ride this out." Rain lashed the campsite, and the river swelled, but the group's preparations held firm. They watched in awe as the storm raged, its raw energy on full display. Eventually, the storm passed, leaving the forest drenched and the river swollen. Emerging from their shelter, the students marveled at the transformed landscape. "That was incredible," Zara murmured, her shimmering skin reflecting the post-storm sunlight. "Nature's way of reminding us who's in charge," Tim said with a grin. Professor Gorin gathered the group for a debriefing. "Well done, everyone. This experience is one you'll remember for a lifetime." As they packed up camp, the students buzzed with excitement. Their fear had given way to admiration, and they had learned firsthand the lesson that Tim and Professor Gorin had tried to impart: respect for Earth's unpredictable, untamed beauty. The rumble of thunder rolled overhead as the river beside them swelled rapidly, its waters churning and frothing. "Everyone into the main tent." Professor Gorin shouted over the roar of the wind. "It's designed to withstand strong winds and lightning strikes." Huddled together in the tent, the students watched in awe and fear as nature unleashed its fury outside. The tent shuddered and strained against the tempest but held firm, a testament to Earth engineering adapted for extreme conditions. "This is what we call a thunderstorm," Tim explained, raising his voice to be heard. "They can be dangerous, but they are also vital to Earth's ecological balance. They help replenish water supplies and bring life-giving moisture to the land." The storm raged for hours, an endless display of lightning, thunder, and torrential rain. When it finally began to abate, the exhausted but exhilarated students emerged to a transformed world. The air was fresh and crisp, filled with the scent of wet earth and foliage. The river had risen significantly but was beginning to recede slowly. "We were safe, but this was a mild storm by Earth standards," Tim noted as they surveyed the area for any damage. "It's a reminder of how fierce this planet can be." The group spent the rest of the day recovering from the storm's impact, repairing their camp, and discussing what they had learned about weather patterns and survival under extreme conditions. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the damp forest, a rainbow arched majestically across the sky, its vibrant colors a stark contrast to the day's earlier darkness. "This planet, it's alive," murmured Zara, staring at the rainbow with a sense of wonder. "Even its anger is beautiful." "That's Earth for you," Tim replied with a smile. "It's harsh, but it also teaches us about beauty and resilience. You never know what you're going to get, but it's always going to be something worth learning." After the storm, the world seemed refreshed and vibrant. Leaves dripped with moisture, and the air was alive with the renewed calls of birds and insects. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, drying the soaked earth and warming their backs, Professor Gorin gathered the students in a sunlit clearing. "Today, as we prepare to conclude our field trip, I want you to reflect on your experiences here." He began, his voice carrying over the gentle rustle of the breeze through the trees. "Think about the challenges you faced and the lessons you've learned from Earth, this so-called death world." One by one, the students shared their insights. A Galaxian student named Lenara spoke of her newfound appreciation for Earth's dynamic weather systems, which, despite their potential ferocity, played a crucial role in sustaining life. I've learned that what might initially appear dangerous or hostile can actually be vital in life-giving, she said. The storm was terrifying, but it also brought necessary water to the region and helped nourish the ecosystem. VX, the Thulian student, shared his thoughts on Earth's flora and fauna. Back home, we live in controlled environments, he began, where every plant and animal is carefully managed. But here on Earth, everything coexists in a balance that's both wild and beautiful. I've learned that unpredictability can be a source of strength. Tim listened with pride as his classmates expressed their newfound respect for his home planet. Finally, Professor Gorin addressed the group. You've all learned valuable lessons here, he said. Earth may be a death world, but it's also a cradle of life. It teaches us that resilience and adaptability are key to survival, and that challenges can lead to growth. With a final look around the clearing, the students began packing up their gear, preparing to return to the interstellar university. As they boarded the transport vessel, Tim turned back for one last look at the forest, a mix of pride and nostalgia in his gaze. Ready to head back? Zara asked, her shimmering skin reflecting the morning light. Yeah, Tim replied, nodding with a smile. But I'll definitely miss this place. As the vessel lifted off, the students watched the forest recede into the distance, each carrying a piece of Earth with them in their hearts. Where everything is predictable. Here, every plant and every animal has adapted to survive in ways we can hardly imagine. It's a constant struggle, but also a powerful drive toward innovation and resilience. Tim listened to his classmates and felt a surge of pride. On Earth, we have a saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That's very much the essence of living on a death world. You learn to respect the environment, understand its signals, and adapt accordingly. Professor Gorin nodded, his eyes reflecting pride. Exactly, Tim. Earth teaches us about the strength inherent in life. It shows us that resilience isn't just about surviving, it's about thriving, adapting, and growing stronger through adversity. He turned to the class, his gaze encompassing each of the students. Your time here has been short, but the lessons are profound. Earth has tested you not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. These lessons, I hope, will stay with you, influencing how you interact with your own worlds. As the discussion wound down, the group packed up their gear for the last time. They made their way back to the landing site, each step bringing them closer to departure but further ingraining the experiences they had endured. Before boarding the ship, they took one last look at the Earth landscape around them. The trees stood tall and proud, the river flowed gently by, and the air was filled with the peaceful chirping of birds. Remember, Professor Gorin said as they climbed aboard, the lessons from a death world are not about fear or danger. They're about understanding the balance of life, respecting the forces of nature, and the power of adaptation. These are lessons for life wherever you may go. As the spaceship lifted off, leaving Earth's atmosphere, the students watched through the windows as the planet that had taught them so much receded into the distance. There was a collective feeling of gratitude and a mutual understanding that they were taking a part of Earth with them in their hearts and minds. Earth is not just a death world, Tim said, watching his home planet shrink to a blue dot.